Welcome to the Pulp Report. I'm your host, Justin Younts, and I'm here with the multi-talented actor, Dominic Pace, who plays Dom on Superstore. Thank you for doing the interview.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. I watched your scene on Superstore. I thought it was really funny.
Thank you so much. Thank you. They got renewed for a third season.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. There's no guarantee in this business, but fingers crossed we'll be back on the show. America Ferrera, Ben Feldman, everyone's just sweethearts over there. So fingers crossed. You just never know. But every booking is just a gift. But was just so honored to be invited back for the second season there.
Yeah. How did that come about?
My agent called me, and it was just, one of those cattle calls where they had about 40 paisans, from Little Italy in New York. And, I knew this character like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
So I went in, and just like any audition, as you get older, you don't put too much pressure on things. You go in, you read, and then you just try to forget about it. And lo and behold, after 20 years of pursuing, it's been my first recurring role on national television. So so honored and humbled and grateful for the opportunity there, and hopefully, like I said, it'll continue on. They called me in December, and I got my hopes up because they wrote me in for another scene around December, and then they said, "Oh, sorry, Dom, it got written out." And then I was in tears because oh God, I was just going to pick up my kids, and then I got the email, and they said we want to have you back for a second episode there. So
well, congratulations. One of the things I've noticed is I've watched your reel, and I watched as much of your work as I could find. You have a lot of patience as an actor.
Thank you so much. I think I attribute a lot of that to I didn't have much growing up. We grew up in a middle class town.
Yeah.
I grew up around people where everything was a privilege as opposed to a right. It wasn't a spoiled generation. It wasn't a spoiled town. It was a town called Austin, New York, and those humble upbringings kind of paced me all throughout my career, just to be able to be grateful for all the little opportunities that come along, and even if sometimes it's a little featured bit, I've always just been grateful to be on set. Even when I was a kid, oh God, the first couple of times, one was in Jersey City. It was just extra work working on Godzilla with Matthew Broderick, and oh God, it was Jean-Claude Renault. I was standing in for Jean-Claude or John Renault. Even that alone, it was like pouring rain. It was April. It was freezing. But I was just in my glory. I'm just a fan of the business as much as I love being an actor as well.
Yeah, I noticed that you and your family go on the trips, the movie trips, which I found fascinating. Because you guys go to you went to for Silence of the Lambs. You went to the place where he's in the in the little chamber thing, and some of the places you went to were so wow, I didn't think that's where it would be, like Xanadu.
It was quite. When I grew up, I was part of that HBO era. I used to spend the summers at my grandparents, and we used to just ad nauseum watch those '80s films, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I kind of just had a close connection with those John Hughes films and just all the classics. I mean, whether it was a horror or just incredible pop culture, even going back to the past. And for me, just having a vivid imagination, even as an actor, where you kind of create the space. To be at some of these locations, like the Goonies house or the Stand By Me town, I think I have almost a higher sense where I'm able to kind of feel for 1 minute or two, just kind of immersed in the fiction of these beautiful projects that legendary actors have created. So it was kind of my way of not only taking my kids all over the country to do a lot of fun things as well as my wife, but also at the same time just to show my appreciation for the artists before me.
Do the kids enjoy it? Are they movie fans too, as well?
They're travel fans. We have another bucket list thing. We love baseball stadiums. We just got back from Atlanta, and we have 4 baseball stadiums left. And my little one, I mean, he's such a diehard fan. He's a heck of a ball player. But I think they're just passionate about. My younger one, he loves the hotels. He's like, Dad, when are we going again to another hotel? I think just the travel and just being together, especially now. In the digital age where we're on social media almost 24/7, it's just nice to kind of unplug and we just we believe in one little bucket list thing or just one little tradition of never doing the same vacation twice. So far it's been a lot of fun.
I thought that was good. I watched the video you did with it was his 3rd birthday, and You were playing the convict for Superman. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that was cute. I
Yeah.
saw also.
You know,
Sorry.
there was a beautiful play I did years ago with the Actors Studio, and there was a beautiful line in this play, and Yale Udoff was the screenwriter, and it was just he was comparing a bird with their young, and he was basically saying that you can only touch them when they're young. So for me, I just feel like the clock is ticking, that once they get into their teenage years and they get the girlfriends, you know, it's like there's going to be that heartbreaking day when they don't want to, you know, kind of hang with dad as much as they do now. So I just feel like I have that clairvoyance where I just appreciate every single day before it's too late.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I saw you have the Lex video on there. Now that's Lex Luthor, right?
Yes, that's correct. You know, it kind of, I attribute that to just having chutzpah in this town, that no dream is too big to conquer. And I did just a big PR push years ago that kind of got worldwide attention of just saying, hey, you know, why not throw my name into the ring? I mean, whether you're a big name or not, of course, you know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for, at that time, it was Bryan Cranston and Ray Fiennes and Daniel Day-Lewis before they went with Eisenberg there. But again, it's just to have that level of confidence. My grandfather, who was kind of my father figure in so many ways, it was not in a cocky way that he ever said this, but he just said, don't ever think that anyone's better than you. And he meant that in the most confident way, and not egotistical, not narcissistic, but just always to have that level of confidence that no matter what you do in life, to be able to kind of pursue your dream. And I you know, again, nothing really came out of it. We got a nice letter from the VP of Warner Brothers saying, hey, listen, he's a great type, but obviously they're going to go with A-listers on this. But I was just very proud of myself to be able to put myself forward like that, and I continue to do that to this day.
Do you identify with Lex's character at all?
There's nothing more pleasurable than playing sort of well, first of all, a three-dimensional character, but also one that is villainous and has those little beautiful undertones that every actor enjoys playing. So,
he's a
if the opportunity, if the opportunity ever came up as the years progress, I would jump at the opportunity. So,
yeah, because I mean, Lex, in some ways, even though he wants to get rid of Superman, he kind of sees it as he's doing the world a favor for doing it.
Sure.
They don't see the bad in him. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the great thing about a lot of these superhero genres and the concepts is that I think the reason they're catching on so much is to be able to have those three dimensions of many characters. I remember going into seeing Suicide Squad, and I was just like, God, I'm not a huge comic book fan, but just the layers that they add to it, and also the parallels that they bring to life, is what really makes it beautiful for me. It's not the cape and the underwear and all that, but it's really, I mean, now even with Wonder Woman, you know, the empowerment of women. Yeah. You know, but Suicide Squad, it was the, I forget the character's name. He did a brilliant job, the Latino, but it really for me.
Diablo.
Yes.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah, but it just focused on me on just family life. You know, where some people come from troubled backgrounds, you know, and if it's able to touch the audience to where they're able to connect with that on a reality level, I think it's the most beautiful thing you can imagine. You know, for me, I'm a closet geek with Star Wars, so that mythology.
I saw that. I saw your whole collection. Are you still a collector of Star Wars?
I got to tell you, I was so gung-ho before Episode 1, and I hate to tell you, that just took the wind out of my sails. You know, as many ways, I mean, there's an article that pops up every day in terms of trying to twist and justify 1 through 3, but it just lost to me its magic. Empire, it really, for me, it wasn't about the pew, pew, pew and all the lightsabers and everything else. It was really the mythology in terms of believing in yourself, and the way that story was beautifully told through the 4, 5, and 6. But 1 through 3, again, I think it got commercialized to such an extent, as well as, I mean, forgive me, I don't mean to knock any other actors, but just the performances for me really didn't knock it home in any way, shape, or form.
So I imagine you probably were at the first screening of that Episode 1.
Oh, we were. I mean,
what was the feeling of that?
You know, I had to watch it again, but not in a good way. I mean, literally just to be like, what? You know, I mean, and thank God there was that Darth Maul bit at the end, which was just amazing. Really funny, cool experience. Last Halloween, we were trick-or-treating over in Studio City, and I mean, just one of those awesome parts of living in Hollywood. We happened to just be walking across the street, and we bumped into Ray Park, which was so amazing. And he was nice enough to get a picture with my older son, but I mean, that was magical, but ultimately, again, it just kind of lost, what I think made it just so amazing. And I'll tell you, after Rogue One, though, and hopefully with 7 and 8, 7 wasn't too bad. I just hope they return to what really makes it magical. And again, it's not about selling toys and action figures. It's more about the deeper level, which is what we were mentioning with the superhero. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, so, I was gonna ask you, are you excited for the new one with?
Absolutely,
it looks pretty good.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a little concerned with the ambiguity of Luke. I don't want to see the wishy-washy. I would rather him go out like a rock star and totally in the spirit of light and everything that's positive. It seems like they're making him sort of ambivalent just from seeing the trailer, which to me is just a little bit of a concern. But hopefully they're able to kind of all tie that in, and most importantly, with Rey's character, really just have her, have a strong, stand on her own 2 feet and really take this by the balls, and really just embrace the whole power of positivity and light.
What did you think of the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One?
Absolutely amazing.
Wasn't that great?
It was amazing.
Like
I mean, again, I think the one good thing that came out of 1 through 3 is I think they really understood the audience's needs for story, and it's not just about the commercialism. And it's just so nice that Disney is taking the route to where they really are putting some love and care. They might miss the mark here or there. I mean, but you can't say that they're not giving 110% effort in terms of making a really good, strong quality story with rich characters.
I thought Seven did a really good job of reintroducing people who aren't familiar with Star Wars to what it was. I mean, it's not my favorite, but I get what they were trying to do, and I'm like, you know what? If this is how they're going to introduce it, and the next one is the one that we really get the good stuff, I'm fine with that. Which I was happy with Rogue One. I was like, okay, this is a little more what I wanted. It was like a war. Just a bunch of people in space trying to get
camaraderie.
Done.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's the parallel. It's almost similar to Lord of the Rings, where you have that diversity, and you also have the camaraderie amongst people that are different. Even Guardians of the Galaxy kind of touches the heartstrings regarding that, and those are things that really move me in regards to it. It's not so much getting dressed up for the Star Wars convention, and and God bless those people. I think it's so great that we have them. It's just more of really the parallels that it creates to real life.
Did you see the sequel to the Guardians? What you if you did?
Not yet. We're gonna go this weekend. We've got a special Mother's Day plan, but right afterwards we're gonna go. I love Chris Pratt. I love that whole entire cast, and again, same thing. I mean, just when you think that they're gonna oversaturate with the superhero genre, which again is a bit of a concern. I mean, I'm not gonna mention certain movies that kind of fell off the mark for me in regards to the superhero films. But I mean, just when you think it's all said and done, they come back with just some really rich characters. And again, it's something that I think everybody can enjoy. It's nice to be able to go to movies now, even with Amazon and Netflix, which help careers like mine. It's just you can't ever take away the magic of going to the cinema.
So how did the acting bug hit you?
I was a good athlete. I was not great. I love pitching. I love baseball. It was my passion. It's kind of cliche, but Italian from New York, they had tryouts for Danny Zuko for Grease when I was in high school.
Russell in some ways.
Yes. I mean, so many actors, but we had a theater, probably about 850 people, and it was packed every single performance. And I was a good singer. I wasn't great, but the electricity that I felt, the adrenaline rush, was something where I really wanted to pursue it. I went to college for a year after that. I thought about baseball. It's just I started having, tennis elbow and tendonitis, and you have to be realistic with yourself. But I was paying about $17,000 a year as a private college in Poughkeepsie, New York, called Marist College. And my mother, that was her initial dream to always want to be an artist, she knew that I was not going to fall asleep if I dropped out and, sit there and smoke weed and play PlayStation all day. So she supported me 110% in terms of going down to the city and studying. And ever since, I mean, day one, that was 1995, I mean, whether it was picking up Backstage or Variety, never making any excuses, never getting down on myself, never letting rejection get the better of me, just really, truly staying focused, and just very textbook, whether it was staying with directors from NYU or Columbia University, getting a small little break off Broadway with Tony and Tina's Wedding, and then that's what segued into a very cheesy spin-off of Saturday Night Fever. I did a Miramax film in Singapore. It was a university Costner, which ended up getting me out to Los Angeles. And ever since 2002, it's just been a very steady diet of what they call co-stars and guest stars. A few lines here, a few appearances there, and some roles more memorable and larger than others.
Now, you studied with Susan Batson a little bit, and then you moved
Yes.
on to William Esper's studio with Terry Knickerbocker, I believe it said that you studied with. How
correct.
was that?
Susan was amazing. I'll never forget her in class. She used to always hold her breast. And the symbol of it was, that in and of itself is kind of weird, but the symbol of it was being private in public. And that lesson alone, could take you years into performance in regards to really, it's as if you're singing on stage, but you're singing in the shower. She would start us off with a dance, just to kind of loosen us all up. She'd play, whatever popular music there was at the time back in the mid-'90s. And I bumped into her. I was just doing extra work on a Spike Lee set. She was very close to Spike and Halle Berry and Tom Cruise and everybody else. And I'll never forget her. We kept in touch for many years. But that was some intense stuff. That was the method. That was sense memory.
Yeah.
But Esper and the Meisner technique, I felt, especially with television especially, I felt that was a lot more suitable for me in terms of technique. It was a lot more about listening, not so much overdoing the moment, where sometimes, at least in my experience, with the method or with sense memory, you can kind of get a little carried away. But Terry Knickerbocker was amazing. I always said that he spoke softly, but carried a big stick. If your scene sucked, he would be straightforward with you. And he was completely unapologetic, very New York.
Yeah.
But that was able to enhanced me many years. I got a little jittery. It was almost like that Luke moment where, are you ready yet? But once I got that Miramax film and I got that taste,
yeah.
I left training a little bit earlier than I should have. But I'll always be very grateful of those years with the Esper Studio.
Wow. Cool. Wow, yeah. So what are some of your favorite films? Because you're a big movie guy, and I wanted to ask you this.
Sure. Again, not to go back to the geekiness of it all, but of course, Empire for me is just kind of the epitome of one of the greatest. Yeah. In terms of performances alone, I can't get enough of Daniel Day-Lewis. It's one of those things to where he literally takes it to a whole nother level. And I think for many actors, it's something that we all aspire to do. There Will Be Blood, and of course, Gangs of New York is just his preparation. You can watch him watch paint dry, and it's just amazing to watch the wheels turn within his head. I always looked up to Harrison Ford. When we get into just the Italian-American culture, a lot of people, they look up and, they aspire to be Brad Pitt or George Clooney. For me, it's always been Chaz Palminteri, Robert Costanzo, who I had the privilege of meeting the other day, Joe Mantegna, just people that I kind of want to mirror in terms of my career, Stanley Tucci. And also what I love about these guys, a couple of them at least, is that they represented just the epitome of what it is to be an actor in terms of taking it into your own hands. And that's something that's kept me driven for 20 years in terms of not letting this town dictate what you will and will not do, but taking it in your own hands, whether you have to write your own material, whether you're going out and seeking out projects from independent producers or directors. Stanley Tucci wrote Big Night, and Chaz, of course, did Bronx Tale. So those guys, aside from films, are people that have really inspired me over the last 20 years.
Wow. Do you have any favorite directors?
Sure. You can't go wrong with Scorsese and Tarantino. For me, it all comes back to, especially in this PC era that we live in now, being politically incorrect and being honest and bearing your soul. There was a director years ago, writer-director, his name was Todd Solondz, and some of his stuff was extremely intense. Happiness and Doll's House. But things like that I'm always drawn to, because if you're going to make a movie, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be a director, I think the ultimate dream and the goal is to do something that's unique. And if anything, to touch people and to be unapologetic with it. Whether it's, not always going to make people happy in one way or another, but to show the bare soul of these characters to where the writers and directors are really, a fan of that, and obviously it shows through their work. Those people I've been drawn to, and those three directors in particular. Neil LaBute as well, which is really some intense stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so are you excited for the new Blade Runner?
I'm on the fence, even though we're talking about just how exciting it is with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the superhero genre. I've been having an issue. I mean, not that anyone cares, but I've been having an issue just in terms of all the remakes and the reboots. And the reason being is for a couple of reasons. Number one, the reason I visit some of these locations is to honor and respect the artist, the individual who made these projects unique, and they made it their own. But also at the same time for the writers. I mean, we just had the writer's strike, and I mean, the one concern, through the strike is, and I don't think it's necessarily the writers, but it's the studios, in terms of regurgitating all of these films, and then on top of it, adding a politically correct twist to it, to where, God forbid, we don't want to offend anybody. I'm having issues with, in terms of I would rather see Hollywood fall flat on their face with something that might not work, as opposed to constantly regurgitating all of the 80s classics. I mean, before we know it, we're going to have a Ferris Bueller's. We're going to have, they're just doing Overboard now, to where they're even doing gender reversal, where it's like, come on. I mean, it's just, I even think women are rolling their eyes at it, you know?
No. There are way too many remakes and reboots. I mean, look, they tried to reboot RoboCop. That was really sad to watch, because I was just like, no. This is not it. I mean, I heard that, they've been trying to get Gremlins off the ground for a while now, but it's like, it hasn't happened yet, so I'm kind of like, yay.
And listen, if tomorrow they called us and they said, hey, listen, we'll give you $1 million for XYZ, I think we would jump at the chance too, and if it sells, and if the formula is right, I remember seeing Mall Cop 2, and, obviously for me, I just was just like, oh my God, I had a couple friends in it. But then somebody broke it down when IMDb had their message board saying, listen, this thing profited, it made money. But just as a viewer, again, and especially as an artist, the reason you want to go to the theater is to be wowed with something different and unique. And that's something that I always gravitate towards when, obviously looking forward to films. This year in particular, Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan, that's one really excited about. And especially the World War II era, my grandfather and so many from the Greatest Generation were involved in. It's always something that I enjoy seeing on screen play out.
Now, have you seen any of Dennis, I can't pronounce his last name, but he's the guy who's helming the new Blade Runner sequel. So the fact that it's a real serious director who did like The Arrival and he did Prisoners gives me hope that Blade Runner will not just be a rehash. That he's got some different ideas to it.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. I think the whole killing of Han Solo and Harrison Ford, what I was hoping in regards to that was that he doesn't want to spend, I think he's 70 years old. He's such a legend in so many ways, and if he stopped his career tomorrow, he would never change that. But what I was hoping was that he wanted to be killed off, that for his final years, he doesn't want to regurgitate Indiana Jones, he doesn't want to do Blade Runner, but he wants to maybe just leave us with one more gift, such an amazing, gifted actor that he is. So hopefully, obviously I'm hoping that Blade Runner and Indiana Jones, of course you wish him well in anything that he does, and glad that he's safe, from the airplane. Yeah. But at the same time, I would really like to see, people like Harrison Ford, Pacino, De Niro really pull some great ones in their final years of their career,
Yeah. So I was watching some of your videos, the homemade videos. Did you direct them all?
Yes. Which ones are you referring to? Just as far as the
just some of the just even like the vacation ones, like the kayaking one.
Yes. Yeah. Once you have the iMovie, which is very easy to use, for me it's just kind of a love letter to my children, and for all I know, who knows if they'll watch it in 20, 30 years. But again, I on a personal level, I didn't grow up with a dad. I had I love my father to death, but I had two very strong, hard-headed Italians kind of clashing at it. Two alphas in a relationship. To this day, I don't believe that it wholeheartedly works. So growing up with just my mom and my sister, that was something that obviously I regretted as much as my grandfather was around. So I do it with a little extra love and elbow grease and care. To be able to give my children all those magical memories, because once they hit 14 or 15, I don't think they come back to it. I think there's this great little meme or the post they have on Facebook to where, well, when you're 18, you know everything, and then in your 20s, it's like bye mom and dad, and then 30s, it's like something that goes along the lines of saying that, okay, we're now friends, and then when you're 50 and 60, then you miss your parents again, and that's when it's too late. So I'm just so glad I live in the moment. there was another project. It was a Twilight Zone episode, and Jack Klugman starred, and it was a beautiful episode. I think every father or father-to-be should watch. It's called In Praise of Pip, and his performance is so powerful. It is basically about a gambler, degenerate father who was never there for his children, and or for his child. And basically, he has that one moment, this one day, to take his child to a carnival, and just the tears and the joy and the power. And I mean, who knows if there's such a thing as reincarnation, but it's just everything that you regret when you're older, or maybe I see it through my father, or maybe through other people. It's just you have to really live in that moment when your children are young, because again, you are not able, especially with boys. I mean, maybe daughters, they say the daughters stick around, but with boys, you're not able to get those years back. And there's no question you can always have that bond and rekindle, but you can never, again, going back to that script, you can never touch them the way that you can touch them when they're young. And to me, more than any role or any $1 million that you can get, or even Louis Vuitton bags or whatever, the most priceless thing in terms of wealth is really the love that your children have for you.
Memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what a better way, I mean, it's like It's a Beautiful Life, to where, they were in the concentration camp. And of course we have all the drama and the politics going on right now. But what a beautiful way to, I mean, obviously give your children a sense of reality, but at the same time to create these memorable experiences, whether it's through the happiness of baseball, or through the happiness of movie locations, or even, we love food. Italians, they go hand in hand. But just like different, we love to try different genres of, or different cuisine and such. But just creating all those magical memories for them, it means the world to me.
Yeah, and I can see that comes home through the videos. One of the things I saw on one of your interviews, you talked about humanism, and I'd like you to go back. I mean, you explained it again, but I'd like you to talk about it a little bit more.
Thank you for doing so much research. I appreciate that. Yes, it's very black and white to me right now. I always talk about my hometown in a lot of the interviews because it meant so much to me, and the reason it did was in regards to politics today. We have this gender separation now with feminism. We have the minorities with the Black Lives Movement and everything else. And my concern for minorities as well as for women is that when we continue to keep separating ourselves as a separate entity, I don't feel that we will ever achieve the definition of what equality is. It's even now where they're now all the press is coming out in terms of, for Wonder Woman, treat her like a human being. Treat Ghostbusters as a human being. When I was a kid, I never saw Sigourney Weaver as, oh my God, it's a woman. What would he do here now? I mean, she was an awesome actress. End of story. So the respect that we can give to minorities, the respect that we can give to women is not a women's march, is not a Black Lives Matter march, but a humanism march, to where you are no better, you are no less, or you know better than I am. But the definition of that is humanism, because then what ends up happening is then we start creating a double standard. Now, all of a sudden, if I were to go into the workplace and I were to create myself as some separate Italian-American male, however you want to, define myself and to be specific, there's already going to be almost a radar. As opposed to saying, no, this person is an employee. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care what your gender is. You are your human being to me. So I think the whole movement in terms of this feminism and minorities really needs to be, we need to start marches in regards to humanism, because again, that is where I do not view you any different than myself, as opposed to all of a sudden there's this whole feminist movement to where, again, I feel like there begins these double standards to where they are separate. And they
we want to move towards equality. That's where
without question.
Moving. But
equality to where there's no black or white about it, because again, when we're separating ourselves a minority or also a gender, I don't think it's equality. Because now all of a sudden, again, there might be some double standards that creep in there, which we've seen in media. I just recently went off on an article a couple of days ago where it was a generalization of men, saying that it takes women about, I think it's an extra 7 hours of work in terms of housework in order to clean up for men. And I said, whether that's true or it's not, this is actually a disservice to minorities. It's a disservice to women, because all of a sudden, now you're justifying that we can generalize men, but for some reason, there would be World War III if we were to say, well, this percentage of African Americans, this is what ends up happening. Or women tend to be a little bit more emotional and dramatic in the workplace. So what do you guys all think about that? And even this woman retorted, she said, she said, it was a test that was done, it was a study, and I said, well, listen, we can do some female studies too, but that's not the point. The point to get to equality is that I am not going to view you as a special, and I'm not going to put you up on a pedestal either. Yeah. And that was the one thing with Trump, even though, like I said, I mean, he can go to hell for many reasons. But the one thing I loved during the debates was, wow, how awesome is this that he's giving her the business in terms of saying, wow, maybe this in many ways was kind of a definition of equality by saying, I'm not going to sit here and cater to you just because you're a woman. And that, to me, is the most beautiful definition, and that's where I feel that we can kind of even this playing field, hopefully, over the next 10 or 20 years or so.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for doing this interview. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This has been great. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. I mean, I've just been so grateful for a number of projects to come out. I finished this project called Ernie in Serbia. It's a family film. Hopefully it'll be out to Netflix later this year. Also, there's a project with Ken Davitian. It's called Diverted Eden, and that should be released later this year on Amazon. And then, oh God, there's so many. Superstore will renew soon, and then I pick up filming tomorrow. There's a great series on investigative discovery called Coroner. I Speak for the Dead, and I play a lead detective, and that I'll be guest starring on that come this September. But you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. It's Dominic Pace, and really happy to take the call, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Once again, you can reach us at the Pulp Report on Facebook and our Twitter handle at the Irrelevant OP. And thank you, Don.